everybody. Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show, the football edition. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
As a Packers fan, I am doing pretty damn good tonight.
I know. I thought the big news today would be that we're exactly 1 week away from the first regular season NFL game, but it hit us pretty good this morning or this early afternoon with the big news of the big trade. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, Micah Parsons, welcome to Green Bay. All right, everybody. I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can find us at our social media handles on YouTube and Instagram at the Hoops Rehab Show. And then we will be uploading a pod after this live show, so you can get that wherever you get your podcasts. We always ask, if you're on Twitter or on YouTube, just comment along. Let us know what your thoughts are on the breaking news tonight and any football questions, because this is our football edition episode. As long as we always do basketball, but today specifically is football. But Eric, are you ready to get this news cracking about today?
Yeah, man, definitely.
All right, so what were your first thoughts when you heard Micah Parsons traded?
I guess a couple things. Definitely a pretty big shock, only because through history we've seen so many contract disputes, and maybe they don't get as ugly as this one kind of recently did. But we've seen holdouts. We've seen as of late a little more deals getting done in the 24th hour. And so regardless of kind of all the chatter the past month or two, I really truly thought a deal was going to get done between Micah Parsons and the Cowboys. And I know there was some chatter about Green Bay, but when I officially saw it, I must say I was pretty surprised, just knowing the history of contracts in the NFL. Just it was a shocker. What about for yourself?
Yeah, to me, it was a shocker on two levels. Number one is Jerry always pays his superstars. So you go back to CD Lamb, go back to Dak. It drags on for a little bit, especially what happened with Dak or Emmitt Smith. Obviously, you can date this back to all the guys that have been there, and he usually always knows that he needs superstars for the market, and he'll pay for them. So that's what shocked me. Number one is I'm surprised he actually traded him. And number two is the Packers actually making a deal. This is as unheard of as a Packer fan for the past 30 plus years, is to make a trade right before the season starts, yet alone sign a free agent in the offseason, which rarely ever happens because they usually draft people. So, we've had the big free agent signings like Julius Peppers, or was he traded or signed? Trying to think about that
I forgot about that. I thought that was signed. I would think that was one of the, because they didn't sign anybody for the longest, right? And you're like,
it was him and Charles Woodson. Those are
right.
The big signings that they ever had, right? So the fact that you're bringing in a guy who's played 4 seasons, he's had 12 plus sacks in each of those seasons. There's only one other player that has done that, and that is Reggie White, who's a Packer. So I think it's pretty good to see, and I'm happy to see it.
Oh yeah, I obviously for the short term, this is huge for the Packers. They're going all in, in terms of the defense, and I know a pass rush was one of the things that they really, really wanted to work on this past offseason compared to last, and they got the ultimate pass rusher just in one trade. And so he's obviously going to get paid a lot. We know what it potentially could do to the salary cap. We know they gave up 2 first-round picks. That's kind of for the future to worry about. But for now, they definitely got themselves a dog. And they saw some weakness there in Dallas. Like you said, it's so rare for this to happen because the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, it always comes with drama. Just recently with Dak and CD. And so again, I thought it was going to be just another one of those things that we were talking about it all summer. He signs an extension a week before the season starts, and we kind of forget everything about it. But yeah, it's a big day for the Packers. Cowboys, to be honest, I don't think they were very crazy about this year, whether if it was going to be with Parsons or not. He has been on the team. He was on the team last year, last few years. They've had a couple of good seasons. But instead of, paying him a lot and being 8-9, 9-8, 7-10, perhaps they said, hey, let's trade him. But sometimes those trades can come back to bite you. And so I'm sure that's something that Green Bay is looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay is the youngest team in the league right now, right? And so you just still got younger in a way. I mean, he's 25, 26 years old, 4-time Pro Bowler, and you're adding all these youth with already that youth that they have of hoping to have some explosive players like Golden, the receiver who they drafted in the first round, and then obviously you have Jordan Love. However, you're going to be in salary cap hell pretty soon in the next couple of seasons. But I think during this time where everybody's young, you got the young receivers that are not going to get paid that much. You got young offensive linemen, young defensive players. And so for the most part, you're paying your top quarterback and you're paying your top defensive player, who's arguably one of the best defensive players in this league. So I think for sure you're going to make the move every day. I think when you think about first round picks for the Packers, typically they're in the 20s. It's not like they're usually going to be a top first round pick in the top 10 or anything like that. So I don't really mind giving up the first round picks. The salary is what surprised me the most, is that they went into that agreement right away, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, sure. So Green Bay won't have a first round pick until 2028 now. And so, I mean, it means something, right? Usually your first round picks are just, they start right away. But you're right, is the Packers have just traditionally always been, they never were on the lower half of the standings. They've always been on that upper half. And so you figure, especially with getting Parsons, this draft pick again will be in the mid-20s or something, right? And so it's obviously better to have them than not, but this was just the cost of doing business and getting, maybe one of the top, when it's all said and done, top 5, 6 defensive player of all time, right? Potentially. So just the cost of doing business. You had said earlier, I was looking up Julius Julius Peppers and what 11 years does. So he did sign in 2014 with the Packers, 3 years, $30 million. Wow. 2014. So
it's definitely made a difference, right? And he did make a difference. They went to 2 NFC championship games while he was there, right? So 2 out of 3 seasons, having a star defensive player like that did help the Packers kind of get to that next level, even though they didn't get to the Super Bowl. Now, when you think about it on the Dallas Cowboys side, what do you think they're doing, number one? And are there any positives that come out of this for them, or is it all negative?
I would say if it was, no disrespect, because they are, a Super Bowl championship organization. I know it's been some time and they've had a lot of good years. I think if it was like a well-run organization where one can argue right now that it's not, I think it would be they would be in a decent spot. I think Green Bay's in a better spot, but only because if they would have gave him that money that he was due to get, I mean, they are very mediocre. And I just think that would just put a stranglehold on them. And they just weren't ready to do that. And so I know Dallas has had a thing for, I guess, trading away stars this year, the city of Dallas. Obviously talking about Luka Doncic, but I think, I don't know. It's like something they probably felt like they had to do, but what will they do with it? That's my question. What are they going to do with these extra first round picks? what are they going to do with this cap space that will be created from this? And I expect a very mediocre year for them coming up. And then, maybe next year they can kind of basically start a rebuild, really.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was Dallas fans are going through it, and the first image I had in my head was when Luca and Micah Parsons were exchanging jerseys, and they're no longer part of those teams, right? So I'm like, man, how time has just changed within 1 year, right? So as a Dallas fan, it's just more of like, what are you guys actually doing? Because Jerry has always been about his superstars. If one thing with the team, he's like, even if we're bad, we're going to have stars. So you're losing arguably one of the best players in this league, and you're saying the reason you kind of got rid of him is you're looking for a defensive tackle to help stop the run, and now you're probably not going to be able to stop the pass, right? You're not going to have that edge rusher. So like in a league where I'm not saying running is not important, but passing is obviously first and foremost the main thing that they do in this league. And you just got rid of the best person that does it.
Yeah. If there was one thing that the Cowboys are, even the years that haven't had success, is they've had those stars. They've had a lot of, somebody that people go to watch games for, and Micah Parsons definitely does that. But they've kind of, I don't know, they've taken like a little bit of a backseat as of late. I feel like they hired, what's his name? Brian, Schottenheimer, right? Not a real sexy hire. Previous to that was Mike McCarthy, right? Just kind of a safe pick hire. And it could be because Jerry Jones and family want to make sure that they kind of still have full reins in that organization, and they maybe pick that coach that will just do what they say. But I don't know. It's just interesting, those coaching hires, trading away Micah Parsons, who was probably their most popular player, and one of their obviously best player too. And so I don't know. We'll kind of see what comes of it the next few years for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and the first thing that pops in my head is just that, is this the end for Jerry Jones? Like, is there a time that you foresee that he ever sells the team? I know he wants to keep it in the family, and there's Steven is obviously there and all that stuff. But is there a time that he would just either, number one, step down from the GM and president role and just like pass it down to his family, Steven, and maybe they actually hire somebody that actually does this for a living, that actually is a GM in this league? Or is he just going to keep pushing forward until he can't anymore?
The latter. Yeah, I just don't see it. I think while he's knock on wood, above ground and pretty healthy, then that I think that's basically. Sorry, I got somebody barking over here when I knocked. Who let the dogs out? But yeah, I think he is here to stay, and the family is here to stay. And but what I will find interesting to see is if years down the line, if there is going to be a change of how they do business with exactly what you said, hiring someone to take care of everyday football operations while the Jones family takes care of the business side. But it'll come, but it's probably going to be years from now still.
Yeah, I mean, watching some of that Netflix documentary with the Cowboys, you just go, yeah, no, he's probably going to run this until he can't. And that's what he's always wanted to do, is number one, be in the limelight, right? Always be in the media, no matter if it's good or bad, which I would say this is probably on the bad side. But no matter what, Jerry's going to come out and have a press conference and literally just call him Michael the whole time. Do you honestly think that he was doing that on purpose, or he literally just doesn't know Micah's name?
He's got to know Micah's name by now, I would hope. Yeah, his press conference are gonna, the narrative will be just that we wanted him. We gave him an offer. He didn't want it. We're getting a good player back, and Kenny Clark, who's from UCLA, and he's been a decent run stopper. And then we're gonna get some first round picks, and this is I can see it now. This is a trade for now and the future. You know. But at the end of the day, I think Michael Parsons would have been probably better to have him suited up on the boys this year.
Yeah. And then I guess my last question is, does this make the Packers a contender right away now?
Well, I think the NFC is, I mean, look, we have the Eagles, who's defending Super Bowl champions, who should be outstanding again, I would gather. But yeah, besides that, it's pretty open. And so you have your Rams, you got your Commanders, you got your Lions, still some good clubs. But I think with this move, it's going to depend on what's his number? 12, 13? Mr. Love.
Yeah. Mr. Love, number 10.
Number 10?
Yeah. I was like, hold on. Isn't he number 10?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? That's what I think it's going to come down to, is his progression, and this would be year like 3 as a starter, right?
Starter, yep.
So year 3 as a starter, he was obviously behind Aaron for a bit there, and so yeah, he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to play the way he played during the second half of his first year and into the playoffs. If he does that, then I think you're going to see him in the playoffs. And once you get in that dance, anything can happen.
Yeah, I just think on the NFC, it's pretty wide open, right? Unless it's Philadelphia. Yeah. So I think they definitely have a chance in that division or in the conference. Their division is going to be hard as hell. Same as last year, right? You're going to have the Lions going to be there. Minnesota is going to be good. You just don't know how good they're going to be, because they essentially have a rookie quarterback. And Chicago is going to be much better with Ben Johnson as a coordinator and coach. So it's going to be a tough division, but I do think that's a solid team that can get around 12 wins. Probably 12 wins would be their high. Somewhere that 12, 13, which realistically probably around like 10 to 11 wins is likely, which gets them into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine they'd be one of the 7 teams in the playoffs. 11, 12 wins will definitely do that.
Yep. All right. So if you guys are in the live stream on YouTube or Twitter, let us know your thoughts on the Micah Parsons trade or any other concerns around the league. We're about to get into some fantasy topics right now. So if you have any questions, just hit that chat. And also, if you're on the live, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and any follows on Twitter. All right, Eric, let's get into some fantasy talk, since I know people have still not had their draft, and some people are waiting until this Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
So I wanted to get into, a lot of people just say the do not draft list, but for me, it's more like players that I'm concerned about. And on my list, it's going to be mainly to do with people that have histories of injuries, or just vice versa, sometimes lack of production because of injuries, or any other people on that team. So let's get into this right now. So we're going to give a top 5 list of the most concerned players right now. You want to go back and forth with this list this time? Can I go for one?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. We might have some same guys on the list, but let's do it.
All right. So you want to start off first?
Yeah, I'll start off. So yeah, this is kind of guys that most likely have had a run, have had some good seasons. Obviously, these are going to be like more higher end players that would be picked more so on the high side. So I'm going to just go straight from the top. No surprise, Christian McCaffrey, who I'm seeing in a lot of first rounds. in different, fantasy leagues that I'm in and some fantasy drafts that I've seen. And so it's interesting because McCaffrey has had a real good run in Carolina, and then he had a couple injury riddled seasons, and then he got traded to San Fran, and he went on another big run for a couple of seasons like he did in Carolina. He was obviously banged up a lot of last year. We know running backs. Running backs' age is not kind to them. It comes quick. And that's someone that I would be worried just for the injury's sake. And San Fran still should be pretty good, but not nearly as dynamic as they have been in the past. They still got some players though. So that's just someone that if I was in a position where I'm like 6, 7, 8, I just would be very wary about picking him up.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And I'll say that player, he was obviously on my list. So we'll go with Christian McCaffrey. My biggest concern, and I've kind of stated this before on the pod, if you guys listened before, is just that anytime you have Achilles tendonitis, or what they end up calling a tendinopathy, which means there's degeneration of the tendon, that doesn't change really. And so for me, it's not like it's a matter of time before something happens, but it makes you worry when both sides were already affected. So now essentially he's had tendonitis on both of his Achilles, right? He's had the calf injury. He had a knee injury as well last year. And for his draft position, where people are getting him at the first round, pretty much like somewhere between that 7 to 10 or 7 to 12 spot, I think there's much more value you can get from drafting a younger player in that spot. Somebody like a Bucky Irving, or somebody like, obviously Genty is kind of like in that same spot where you can go, all right, I'm getting a young, fresh leg guy that I know there's like a little bit of risk because you don't know what you're going to get with them. Because the ceiling of Christian McCaffrey when healthy is the top running back in the league. However, I feel like if you can get him later in most drafts, which he hasn't really slipped in a lot of drafts too far, then his value goes up. But for right now, for me, it's one of those, like, I wouldn't draft him at the bottom of the first round. Now, if you told me I can get him in later of the second round, yes, I would get him. But there's a chance that with his workload this year, almost turning 30, that's just a recipe for running backs to not play as well, right? To possibly get injured. So I don't want to see him go down, but it's just something that you got to have in the back of your mind.
Definitely. Yeah. All the things you said. And if he somehow slips to the second round, then so be it. You might need to take that chance, and you never know. You could have just like one last, monster season. So I agree on all that.
All right. So I will go with my second guy, which is Devon A-Chain. And this is mainly because a couple of reasons, right? He's going into the season with a calf injury, right? So you already know, this happened on August 13th. So we're 2 weeks out since the injury. They haven't really diagnosed like the severity of it, but that they've held him out of preseason and held him out of practice, and have recently said that he should be available for game 1. Anytime you're dealing with a strain, especially in the calf, the hamstring, this is something that can easily be aggravated. So if he's not fully 100% in game 1, but goes out there and tries to play, that's when you get the re-aggravation, you get a further strain, and then he's out multiple games at that point. So that's what I'm worried about in that aspect. And then the other thing for me was when you just kind of look at his usage. Yes, he gets a lot of receptions as a receiver, but he hasn't even rushed over 1,000 yards yet, right? So that they like to deploy another back, and that's where I think like Ollie Gordon is going to come in and be that bigger back, while A-Chain is more the receiver, kind of playing on more of the first and second, more on like third downs where you know you're going to need a reception, stuff like that. So I think there's some concern for how early he is being drafted in most fantasy drafts.
Oh yeah, if you're in a league that's like PPR, for example, points per reception or half point PPR, he was just a beast because he just catches balls. He's not a bell cow type of running back. He'll get you touchdowns. He'll catch 7-8 balls, and have explosive plays. And so if he doesn't have those explosive plays because of injury, not being able to really give all that he can give, or re-aggravates the injury, out 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and that's obviously a big portion of the year. So I had him kind of when I was kind of thinking of players like that as well. But someone that comes to mind who's like top tier, when we had our show about receivers, I definitely put him in my top 5, but I'm thinking of like a Justin Jefferson. Granted, if Justin Jefferson falls to you, I think worse players could obviously fall to you. He's had a tremendous start to his career. He's got that hamstring injury, which I know you could probably touch on a little bit more. We're kind of thinking the same thing, right? He tweaks it, he pulls it in week 1 or week 2, like, dang, we'll see him in, week 7 or 8. Right. And so, that along with, rookie, or not, essentially rookie quarterback, and, new kind of, offense and things, I would assume, with a new quarterback and all the bumps and bruises that comes with that, I would just be a little bit, cautious on how high you pick, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, no, that's a good point with Justin Jefferson. And there's a lot of factors, the hamstring injury, and then obviously the quarterback. So he would be up there in my list, but he's not on my top 5 right now this time. So if we're going with my third guy, that would be Breece Hall. So Eric, this is a quick question. Who on the Jets right now has rushed for 1,000 yards in the season?
Jeez, I don't even know what their running back room is besides him.
Don't worry, Justin Fields.
Okay, like I'm even looking at the wrong position.
So that tells you Breece Hall has not rushed for 1,000 yards in his 3 seasons. Yes, his first season was cut short because of an ACL injury. But since he's been back, 2023 rushed for 994 yards. Last year, 876 yards. In those seasons, 5 touchdowns. So I think his value is too high for where he's being drafted for the lack of production that he's actually giving. And then granted, you got to take this year that Justin Fields is going to take some of those rushing opportunities away, because we all know that Justin Fields is not a heavy thrower. He doesn't have a good arm, and he's going to run the ball a lot. So I just think overall, if you're looking at value, I just don't. I think he's getting drafted way too high for his production, and he still hasn't really shown his explosiveness since he's torn his ACL, which kind of makes me nervous for going into his 4th year.
Yeah, I think he had such a good start to his rookie year, and it was obviously cut short. And they get Aaron Rodgers, and you think automatically he's probably going to have just really stout numbers, and it just really hasn't happened for him. So I guess, again, for running backs, if there was a time, it'd be now. But yeah, that's somebody as well that I would be kind of really not wanting to take too much, or to want to take too early in the draft.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that was my third guy. So who do you got for yours, Eric?
I guess I go a couple different ways here. This one may not be that popular, just because he had one of the best years ever for a running back last year. And the reason I'm kind of saying Saquon Barkley is because I've been snooping around some drafts, and I'm seeing him pick number 1 in some drafts, top 1, 2, or 3. Which, hey, those numbers that he got last year, I think it warrants it. But I would just be a little weary about it, because in most cases, when running backs have rushed for 2,000 yards, then they've had the workload that a Barkley has had, and he also went in a obviously the deepest playoff run you can go as far as getting to the Super Bowl and winning it. So I would just worry about durability a little bit. Is he going to get the same opportunities? Meaning, is Philly going to really want to kind of wear him out as much as they did last year? So that could take away a little bit of productivity. And I just think naturally it's just, there's going to be a decline. Now, if the decline means he's going to rush for 1,600 yards and get touchdowns and catch 50, 40 balls, hell, you'll take that at any time. But I would just, with my selection there, it's just kind of comparing it to what he did last year and the monster of a season he had.
Yeah, it's a great point, because likely he's not going to rush for another 2,000 yards or probably come close to that this season. You do have to worry about his injury history, because it seems to come up at some points, even though the last 4 years he's been relatively healthy, besides a couple of knick-knack things with his ankle and foot. But yeah, I agree. I think he's going a little bit too high on most draft boards, for the fact that he had such a great year last year. It's going to be hard to replicate that as a running back.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So my next one, my fourth one, is Nico Collins in Houston. So I like Nico. I think he's a great receiver, and I like what I've seen in this past 4 years. However, he has had a tendency to not stay healthy for a full season. He hasn't played all the games in the first 4 years. And for me, it's the type of injuries that he's gotten. So he's had a calf strain, hamstring strain, and a groin strain. So he tends to get a lot of the soft tissue injuries, which puts you out a couple games in a season. And I just think overall that can be an issue, kind of moving forward when you're, the way he's been drafted and the position that he gets drafted pretty high. I think that outweighs where he should actually be getting drafted, because the thoughts are like, yeah, Nico's the number 1 in Houston. They don't really have too many other players, and I think that's part of the problem. So it's just almost they're going to have to rely so heavily on him. I don't think he's going to kind of get the production you need out of that wide receiver 1 that you're drafting him in that position.
Yeah, he's really been picked to just have a standout breakout season, and so the talent is there. But it would, and he, you know what, at the end of the year, you may look and he could be a top 5 receiver, but in terms of fantasy, but it would worry me if he was like my top receiver and I was picking him late in the first round, maybe early in the second round. And but hopefully he's due for a big one, and hopefully that happens for him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who do you got?
I kind of said it earlier. I have one more guy, but I guess fourth, as a fantasy football owner and as a Miami Dolphins fan myself, definitely Devon A-Chain, just because he does mean a lot to the team. I'd rather have him as healthy as possible, kind of later in the year, because he is electric. He does provide a lot, but he's small. He does just, even though he played 17 games last year, I felt like he'd get tackled one wrong way and you're like, dang it, he's going to be out. And, he's gritty.
I could have sworn he missed a game last year. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, he played 17. He was like so banged up like most of the year.
I know. He gets banged up like every game, it feels like. And so that kind of thing does take a toll. And so if he's already coming in kind of hurt, I know it surprised me too. He caught 78 balls. Obviously, that's pretty big for a running back. And how I just mentioned PPR, 592 yards. So, I mean, he had 900 rushing, but he had like about 600. So about 1,500 yards technically. And so he does a lot for that team. And so I would, just to kind of put a bow on it, that is one of my guys too. I'm a little bit squeamish about.
Yeah. It's like if he's healthy, he'll have a very productive year. It just kind of, he's the type that kind of gets banged up very easily. And so that's what you kind of worry about through the longevity of a season.
Yep. We'll see. They typically have, as of late, have gone, kind of running back by committee. They did have Alexander Madison, but he's out the year, suffered that injury in the preseason. So they're kind of shuffling people around there. But again, that's a worry of mine heading into the year.
I will say, though, if you guys haven't drafted, or if you have drafted, there's a guy named Ollie Gordon that's going to be his backup. Jalen Wright was pronounced he's going to be out at least a month. So pretty much Ollie Gordon is going to be the big bruiser to A-Chain, which I think will be a good combo. And Mike McDaniels has shown that he likes to use two backs. And so I think you're going to get some pretty good production out of Ollie Gordon throughout the season there. So if you haven't picked him up, pick his ass up now.
Do it now.
I sure did. All right. So my last player is Kyren Williams, right? Kyren Williams had, a very productive year last year, about 1,300 yards and 14 TDs. Now, he did have 5 fumbles, which was kind of a thing that he got in trouble with last year, which is always fumbling the ball. But when I look back on like him, his previous 2 years, he's dealt with some injuries throughout. He's missed about 12 games before that. He missed 1 game last year. And I think he has a tendency to kind of get banged up, but he also just fumbles the ball a lot, right? So those are kind of like my concerns, where you have a little bit of injury history and you also have ball security issues. And my other big factor for me was the health status of Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford is not there, Kyren Williams would not be a really good running back. It's going to be hard to get the production that he needs to get if Matthew Stafford is not there. So for him going on most drafts as your RB1, I think there's some players that I'd probably rather have at that position than Kyren right now.
I think the fumbles alone are worrisome, because you know how these teams are. You fumble a couple of times, that backup running back will be in there in a heartbeat, and so they got Blake Corum, right? He's there, and so obviously injuries, the health of Matt Stafford, but a couple more, riddled. If he has a season again with those fumbles, he could be benched, and so that's definitely a big worry. And if you have like a deep league, you probably want to pick up like some of these handcuffs, right? Of some of these backs, just in case something bad happens.
For sure. All right. So that pretty much wraps up our most concerned players. Want to add anything to that, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, again, this is fantasy. I'm not concerned about this player and how his team will do. But when you draft like a Pat Mahomes as your quarterback, the last couple years, from a fantasy perspective, it has not been good. Just look at the numbers. They kind of are more of they've really turned into kind of a gritty defensive run first kind of team. So I would be not so much worried, but don't pick him early. Maybe you pick him late and he just has one of those monster years and surprises you. But that just kind of was a bonus in terms of quarterbacks that I think of.
Yeah, that's a good point there. All right, so let's get into our, we had the most concern, but now these are kind of like, I'm not really concerned about these guys, and go ahead and draft them as soon as you can type of player. And I could start off this for me. My top guy with that would be Jamar Chase, right? Like I think he has proven time after time, season after season, he is the guy at receiver. I mean, his rookie year, he had 1,400 plus yards with 13 TDs, right? So you know what you're going to get out of Jamar. And I think he just, that offense that Joey Burrow has is pretty damn explosive with Higgins and Chase Brown. So I think they're going to continue to do more of the same there.
Yeah, definitely. There's those guys that, and you're going to see probably a common theme. We're going to be talking about guys that have just, they're there, they're available. You look at the numbers at the end of the year. It doesn't really matter how they get there. Sometimes they start slow. Sometimes they pick it up in the middle of the year. Sometimes start off strong, but you know what they're going to be at. And he's one of those. And so, it's, hasn't done it for quite as long, but for me, and there's going to be some obvious choices, right? There's reasons why some of these guys are guaranteed to be in your top 3 or 4, in fantasy football drafts. So I just think of a Bijan Robinson. He's been super consistent his first 2 years. His rookie year, he had a pretty decent year. Last year was kind of all world. And so I just see him as one of the, better running backs. And he's going to get opportunity. Knock on wood that he stays healthy. He's durable. He seems to have traditionally been. And so I don't think you can go wrong in your draft 1-2 with those 2 guys in terms of, where you feel is the best spot, if you're in a, PPR, hey, you could think about Chase or Bijan. But if you're maybe in a standard league, you might want to go for kind of more of like the running back that's going to pick up those yards and touchdowns. But yeah, that's somebody that's just like a shoe-in, 12 touchdowns, 1,600 yards, 30 to 40 pass receptions.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with him. He's my number 2 on the list as well. So Bijan, he hasn't missed a game yet in the NFL. He's been very durable as a running back. No injury history. Dude looks like a beast, like all the time. You just look at him, you're like, yeah, that dude. It's like Genji, kind of Ashton Genji coming in. You're like, that dude is just a grown man, right? Yeah. So I think there's going to be more of the same with Bijan. He will probably be the top running back this year, and I wouldn't be surprised at that either.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So is it mine or yours?
I can go. Yeah. I don't know if it's somebody you had in mind, but I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go just straight to the top. Josh Allen, just had an amazing career. Old reliable, just doesn't miss games. He gets pummeled out there at times the way he rushes that ball, but he is just Mr. Consistency. Like I said, is just always out there. He's such a big part of Buffalo's offense, whether if it's in the passing game or the running game. So that's just someone that, barring injuries, of course, like all these guys, that we know he's going to be pretty damn productive.
Yeah, Josh Allen as the number 1 quarterback is a solid pick because he's going to play every game and just be out there with his team no matter what. So great pick there. Mine for number 3 is CeeDee Lamb. He's only missed 2 games in his career. And what happened today, Eric? There was a big trade, Micah Parsons. And what does that mean for Dallas's defense? Likely they're going to be pretty garbage or towards the bottom of the NFL, which means
they might be down a lot, might be down in games.
They're going to be down a lot. They're going to have to pass a lot, and they have no running game. It's non-existent. They don't have a running back. It's almost like when Stephen A was talking about Kwame Brown. He doesn't even have a post move. Listen, they don't have a running game. They're going to have to throw the ball, and CeeDee Lamb has been at the top of the top as a receiver. He's been so consistent his last 4 years, and you know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the show. Ranking receivers that we just, he even on a quote unquote down year last year, he put up still pretty damn good numbers. He was out there, he played, and so I expect more of the same from him.
Yep. All right. So who's your next pick?
So I gotta go back to Atlanta. Tight end Kyle Pitts. He
God damn it, Eric. Yeah, why do you have to put in Kyle Pitts in this show? I told you not to mention that guy's name, even though I secretly drafted him this year.
Yeah.
Somehow for like the 4th year in a row or whatever it is.
He's gonna make somebody's year one of these years, I think. I just don't know when.
Kyle Pitts is the most consistent player I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Just kidding. But kind of go different routes. It's weird because you think of like a Derrick Henry who's like old, reliable, but he's like, man, like, is there going to be a year that he's going to be, just so? And so, I think of the likes of him, but I'm just going to go, Detroit Lions receiver, Amon St. Brown. I think he is just, again, we know what numbers he's going to put up. We know Detroit's going to sling that thing. He's durable. He's just a real crafty, solid. It's not all about him receiver that is just going to work. And I know you've always been high on him, and you probably see him in the same light. But I'd feel pretty damn good if I picked him up.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. I didn't have him on this, but to me, he's as consistent as it gets as well. So great pick. Now for me, my number 4, I went with Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a tight end only draft, I would draft him number 1 every single time. Like his production as a rookie was just unheard of. And he played every game, and he's been super consistent, and he's going to get a lot of receptions. So I got him as the number 1 tight end, and I feel like that pick, wherever you pick him, if you pick him super early, is going to be a super valuable pick.
Yeah, he was, in terms of tight ends, he was on my list. He's just like a flat out stud, just as his physique and just his ability on the offensive side. And I don't see he's just gonna year after year put up numbers, and him having such a great rookie season. I see year number 2 being that much better.
Definitely. All right. So what's your next one, Eric?
So I got one that I'm not saying you would pick him up, first round, but I could think you would feel really good about him being maybe your first back if you've picked up a couple of top receivers, or maybe your second back if you've gotten like one of those studs. And I'm going to go with on the Packers again. So Josh Jacobs. And so he's just been a kind of model of consistency. He's just a flat out kind of stud running back. Again, we're kind of going down that path of durability. And so I'm going to go in reverse. So last year, 17 games, year before 13, year before 17, 15. And, he's had some pretty solid years. Some years he didn't rush it as much as others, but the touchdowns have always been there. I think with Green Bay, he's just going to continue to get opportunity, kind of like he did last year. And so that's someone that stands out to me where he's just solid, and he's going to stay healthy, hopefully. And I would imagine he's going to have another good year.
Yeah, no, he does play through everything. He's definitely a tough runner. He's going to be a key to their offense. So great pick. I think you'll just get consistent numbers out of him. So you're not going to go. It's like you go into fantasy drafts and you're always trying to pick that risky player, but a lot of times it's just getting some of these consistent beasts that are going to help you kind of win a championship. So great pick there. My last guy is none other than Chuba Hubbard. I just feel that this guy has proven over the last 2 years that he's a pretty damn good running back in this league. Last year, he pretty much had a breakout year. He's been pretty consistent as far as the injury front. Has only missed 4 games in his 4-year career. And I just think this year he's going to be a bell cow for the Panthers. He does need to probably improve a little bit with receptions, kind of out of the backfield that way. But I think he's more of a straight old school kind of running back that's going to just run the ball versus more of the pass catching type of running back. But I think you're going to get consistent numbers out of him, and you know that he's going to be relatively healthy.
Yeah, he should be stout. I think Carolina should be a little bit better. With year 3 from Bryce Young, and I could see it again, him being maybe a back that could be your second back, or again, if you've gotten some top-notch receivers, don't be shy about picking up Chubbs.
Yep, definitely. All right, Eric, you want to finish it off there?
I'm just gonna go somewhere because he's not gonna be in the top, but I'm just gonna go with someone that's just so damn consistent. He's a receiver. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mike Evans.
I'm looking at Mike Evans. Yes. I mean, the worry that what ends up happening, and you made a point to it a couple of seconds ago, we get like these kind of players that are sexy and we kind of hope the best from them. And we devalue guys that have done it before because we worry that they're not going to do it again. And so I look at Mike Evans, right? Like obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years in a row of 1,000 yards. It's not like he's not gonna, catch 100 balls, but he's gonna get 80 balls, right? He's consistently 13 touchdowns, 14, 13, 11, 12, 8. I just got to throw his name out there. He's not going to be a high draft pick at all, but later rounds, if you just want someone that he's going to most likely get me 100 and potentially a TD. Yep. You still got to go with old faithful Mike Evans, and then, guys like that. It's tough though because you're like, man, 1 year he's just going to probably fall off, and you don't want it to be the year you pick him. But.
It's 11 straight years of 1,000, and it's not like he's getting no TDs, like you said. 11 and 13 TDs the past 2 seasons. If you told me you have a receiver that can do that, you're going to draft him all the time. The other reason for him is because Chris Goodwin's going to be out for a couple games. You already know that. You got a rookie receiver, which there's a lot of praise and obviously a lot of hype with drafting him, Micah. You got the other guy who's out past week 9 at this point, so you don't know how long he's going to be out. So Mike Evans, most consistent player they're going to have in Tampa right now. Great pick, Eric.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that pretty much wraps up our fantasy pre-draft talk. If you guys aren't drafting this weekend, gotta re-listen to the show and kind of get a good understanding of some top guys to avoid and then some top guys that you need to pick. And if you guys have any questions, just always drop them towards us. We will answer them on the next show. Eric, got anything else?
No, man, that was fun. I got one more draft coming up, so I'm going to take some of this these things that we learned today and talked about and kind of use it in my next draft.
For sure. We got one. I got one on Monday as well. All right, guys, we are a week away from football season. So we will be doing definitely a weekly Sunday night show, strictly football coverage. And then obviously we're going to get into the basketball coverage as the season gets closer and closer. But until then, guys, the Hoops Rehab team is out. It's been fun. We'll see you next time. Peace out, guys.
Yep.